The World Cup draw happens Friday at the Kennedy Center, of all places, here in Washington, D.C. I think it's kind of sad that we get the World Cup draw in town, but no games. But that's a story for a different day.
Stadium, bro.
Yeah, helping us make sense of all of it is Paul Tenorio, senior reporter for The Athletic Soccer. Paul, thank you for your time, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me on.
Appreciate it.
Dude, for the uninformed, how big of a deal is the World Cup draw on Friday?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge deal. It gives every team a sense of what path they're going to have to navigate if they want to win the World Cup. And I think, fans in every single country that's qualified are going to be tuned in to figure out what the schedule looks like for their country. And I think really what people maybe don't realize, it's like the same way we should think about March Madness, right? Like, your odds of winning this tournament are partly based not just on how good you are, but on the ping pong balls that get drawn on Friday that determine not just who you face in the group stage, but which groups you match up with once you get to the knockout phase of the tournament. So, for example, the U.S., if they win their group, they'll be matched up against, if they win their group and then win their first knockout game, probably the winner of Group G. So if you're an American fan, you're not just matched up against, you're not just watching who you get drawn into your group. You also have to watch who gets drawn into Group G, which of the best teams in the world will be in that group. So there's a lot that will be determined by, what ping pong balls get picked out of the bowls on Friday.
The field has been increased, 16 more teams. How much more intense will this one be?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll make it a lot more fun. There are countries that are going to be taking part in this tournament who have never been in a World Cup before. And it certainly also makes for different types of groups than we're used to, So, like, there's a chance that the U.S. gets drawn into a group with Uzbekistan or Cape Verde or Jordan, teams that, maybe you don't typically see in the tournament or that the U.S. would be heavily favored against. So I think that part of it is cool. For me, I got a chance for the first time in my career to cover a World Cup in 2022 in Qatar. And the coolest part about a World Cup is everyone comes to the country where the World Cup is happening, and they're all there for the same thing. And they're from all over the world, all these different cultures represented, kind of melding together in these cities where the tournament is being held, and all just celebrating the sport. And so when you bring in all these new countries, it's just adding to the party. It's adding to the fun. And I think it'll make things interesting. Like we know in March Madness, it's like, there's a chance that you'll have a George Mason or a VCU in this tournament of a country that no one expects that pulls off a big upset. And that always makes things more fun too.
Could Scotland be George Mason? We're pro Scotland on this radio program.
Yeah, sure. Scotland could, though. I will say, like, Scotland's in pot two. So they're one of the teams that if you're the U.S., you have to be drawn against the European team. So, do you want to roll the dice and hope that one of the weaker European teams wins the playoff and you get a pot four European team? Or would you say, okay, we could beat a Scotland, we could beat an Austria, so we want that European team where we know what we're getting in pot two. It'll be interesting to see. But yes, certainly Scotland could be a team that could make some noise.
How is the U.S. looking? Because I feel like a lot of it I see on social media, it seems like the players kind of hate each other and they hated the last coach. And I don't know if they like the new coach, and the old guys hate the young guys. Like, what the hell is going on with U.S. soccer?
Yeah, it's been a very dramatic 4 years, really, or 3 years since the last World Cup, with everything that happened coming out of Qatar, the controversy between one of the players, Gio Reyna, and the former coach, Greg Berhalter, and their families, respectively, who go back to childhood. Greg Berhalter and Gio Reyna's father, Claudio Reyna, grew up together, played youth soccer together, played on the U.S. national team at a World Cup together. The mothers went to UNC and played together. So that was its own messy drama. And it sort of obviously influenced the team and impacted the team. And the results kind of went down pretty quickly, especially in 2024 when the U.S. lost in the Copa America. That led to Greg Berhalter being fired and Mauricio Pochettino being hired. And what's interesting is the first thing he diagnosed, Pochettino, who's a very prominent, very famous coach in soccer, kind of considered a coup that the U.S. would be able to even hire Mauricio Pochettino. He's coached PSG, Messi and Neymar and Mbappe at PSG, coached Chelsea, coached Spurs to a Champions League final. He came in and he said, everyone's talking about these guys, these young players as a golden generation, as this team that can do something different. And he needed to basically pull them back down to reality. He said there's a complacency that's set in. These players have kind of taken for granted that they're going to be called into the national team, that their jobs are secured. And what I credit him with is he essentially manufactured competition in a pool where there was a big disparity in terms of the level of talent between those golden generation, quote unquote, players and sort of the domestic pool that plays here in MLS. But he's found players that can really contribute. I'll give an example. Alex Freeman, who had only played something like a half a season of top division pro soccer, the son of Antonio Freeman, and Pochettino brings him in, gives him his debut on the national team, and Alex Freeman is looking like a player who has a chance to start a game at a World Cup now, coming out of kind of nowhere because Pochettino gave him a chance. So, those types of players are really making an impact now, and I think it's changed the trajectory of this team, and I think there's now starting to be some real optimism coming off of the 5-1 win over Uruguay last month that this team is starting to get into form now.
Well, I like that
that
coach. That coach rolled in and he basically said, young kids, what you thinking like everybody else in the world, that's going to change right now. And they need that. In every sport, they need that right now. Guys very much think that just because I'm around, I'm going to be automatically put somewhere, and they got to go do the work.
That's right. You've got to be able to make people, as he says, he wants them constantly looking over their shoulder. No one, he said, if your name is not Leo Messi, you shouldn't believe that you're going to be on the World Cup team. Basically, he's like, you ain't Messi, so I don't care how good you think you are. You're not that good. So I think
like
that's
that.
been really important for these players to understand. And you can see the difference in intensity, not just when the team is together, the competition and training as they're fighting for these 26 spots on the World Cup roster, but coming out of the November window where they beat Paraguay and they beat Uruguay with a lot of the big stars, quote unquote, missing. Well, what happened the next week? Christian Pulisic scored a goal. Weston McKennie scored a goal. Tim Weah scored a goal with their club teams in Europe. So I look at that and I say, those guys are watching those games and saying, oh man, my job is on the line. I've got to produce with my club team and show that I still am a star. I'm still worthy of being called in. So that has a trickle-down effect that it's not just about what's happening when you're wearing a USA shirt, but it's impacting these guys' performances when they're back at their club because they know they've got to prove it.
Paul, well, the FIFA changed the rules this year where none of the top 4 teams can face each other until the semifinals. What's the reason for that, and what type of impact would that have?
Yeah, it'll be interesting as long as they win the group. As long as they win the group, they'll get put on opposite sides of the bracket. I don't know. I think I don't necessarily love it. I understand wanting to have the potential of your marquee games, your biggest games coming in the semifinals and finals. Of course you want that. So it makes some sense. But, I kind of love that idea that, like, depending on how the bracket falls, you could have some teams facing off earlier in the tournament. That's part of the kind of the love and allure of March Madness and of knockout tournaments like this. But at the same time, you think back to 2022, like France and Argentina meeting in the final, those are the 2 best teams in the tournament. So I think FIFA's trying to make sure that if they can help kind of make that happen, but also with an assist from performance, right? Like if France finishes second in its group, it doesn't get moved to the other side of the bracket. It only happens if they finish first. So it's a little bit of a mix of kind of rewarding performance, not just at the tournament, but also performance leading into the tournament, and trying to make sure that the very best teams have a chance to meet each other in the biggest games.
We're talking with Paul Tenorio here. You can follow Paul at Paul Tenorio, Tenorio. Paul's a senior soccer reporter for The Athletic. Paul will be on hand, I assume, for the World Cup draw on Friday. Kind enough to give us some time via the Rude guest hotline. Rude makes the most dependable HVAC products in the DMV. Forgive me, I probably should have asked you that. Do you get to go to this World Cup draw on Friday?
Yeah, I'm sitting right now at my mom's house in Alexandria, Virginia. I grew up here in Mount Vernon.
Okay, awesome.
Watched BMitch play many years. So it's exciting to be on. But yeah, I'm here in Virginia right now. I'm headed into DC once I get off of this call, and a lot of events happening. A lot of the biggest names in global soccer are here in DC right now ahead of the draw. So there are events all around the city all day yesterday, all day today. And then the draw tomorrow, where everyone will be there, and President Trump will be there as well. So it's going to be a pretty big event.
You got to get you a picture with Kevin Hart and Shaq.
You'll be right in the middle. The biggest guy and the smallest guy.
I think I want to put Kevin Hart in the middle. Make sure I'm as far away from Shaq to not look.
So, dude, especially if you are a DC native, right? My guess is Trump just kind of commandeered this process, and that's why it's in DC at the Kennedy Center.
That's exactly right. So, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, for me, it sucks that we get the World Cup draw and there's no games.
No
here.
game at all.
Like, why can't? Is it just because Northwest Stadium isn't good enough?
Yeah, we all know the situation out there, Northwest Stadium. I mean, I spent 5 years at the Washington Post going out and covering games, and never, ever did I enjoy my drive out to that stadium. So, look, I think it's a reality check, right, for DC that it doesn't have the stadium, the facility that FIFA looks at and says, yeah, we want to stage our tournament here. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. It's one of the big ones is how many luxury suites do you have? Because FIFA wants to maximize how much money they can make, right? Yeah. So would they rather go to a newer stadium? When you look at the stadiums they're going to, they've all been upgraded or built recently. So whether it's Cowboy Stadium or in Houston or, even Philadelphia, the Link, I guess not the Link anymore. The Link is an older stadium, but it's got the suites, it's got the amenities, and it's easily accessible. It's easy to get to. Whereas FedEx, you factor in the fact that doesn't have as much of the luxury offerings as you want. It's very difficult logistically to get in and out. You're going to have millions of fans traveling into this country that have no idea how to get around. So no public transportation makes it tough. Like, it's going to be very interesting logistically at Arrowhead Stadium, where they're playing, the only Midwest stadium in this tournament. I think they're going to face pretty big logistical issues there because of the lack of public transportation out to that stadium. So
they got parking for days, though, at Arrowhead.
Well, but they got parking. Shuttle buses. They got to run those shuttle buses. And make sure there's no Royals games happening anytime that week. But yeah, I mean, and also there's the tax side of it. I live in Chicago now. Soldier Field doesn't have any games. They've got to. They went into negotiations with FIFA, and FIFA basically says, we want to pay no taxes. We want all the tax breaks. We want all of this profit, and you guys take the cost of security and all the other things. And they're saying, doing the math on it, saying, I don't know if we're going to make money on this. So all of those factors in, but it is weird. I went to RFK to watch Mexico, Italy in 1994.
So did I, dude. I went
to that game.
After 2030, we may be able to have one.
Yeah, I think we'll be back in business. Yo, B, can you imagine
the World Cup in 2031? That'd be a pretty cool thing to have at the stadium, the new stadium.
And I mean, the U.S. might actually win that one. You imagine the good people of Uzbekistan rolling over here to watch their match against Panama, and they roll into Arrowhead Stadium, and the chiefaholic is out there grilling up burgers and stuff.
Hey, that's what we want to do, right? We want to introduce the people to the American traditions, teach them how to tailgate. I mean, there's a lot of great traditions in soccer.
You'll find out what burnt ends are.
Let's bring them in. That's right. Give them some burnt ends, a couple beers, and say this is how we do it here at Arrowhead.
Yeah, dude.
I like America now.
Yeah, breaking down walls. Paul, my last one, dude, and this one's pretty simple. Who's going to win this thing?
Oof. I think if I were to call it right now, I would say Spain. Spain is playing the best soccer. They looked absolutely dominant in Europe. Incredibly talented team. So I think if we're going to just look at it as of today, I would say Spain. Well, you'll have to ask me again after the draw when I see who's going to be facing against whom. But I would say, for me, the two favorites going in are Spain and France. Those are the two heaviest favorites of this tournament.
What about who's going to be the group of death? That's the best term.
I think the team you need to watch to get an idea of the group of death is Norway. Norway somehow, I think partly because there are three co-hosts of this tournament, the U.S., Canada, Mexico, those automatic qualifiers got put into pot one with the best teams in the world. So the U.S. will avoid playing in the group against Argentina, France, Spain, England, the biggest team, Germany. And that kind of, because there's three of those teams, it kind of pushed some teams back. So Norway, with Erling Haaland, who's the best striker in the world, had just hit 100 goals faster than anyone in Premier League history, is scoring at a historic rate. He's in Group 3 to make his World Cup debut. Nobody wants Norway. If you're looking at pot 3, the difference between Norway and the rest of the teams in pot 3 is enormous. So my guess, my hunch is wherever Norway ends up will be the group of death.
Norway, B.
Norway. All right.
Paul, we really enjoyed this, man. I hope the draw coverage is great, and maybe we get you back on after the draw to figure out how the U.S. looks and some of these other teams.
Yeah, it would be great to be on with you guys. I'm sure I'm already getting texts from my buddies that are listening saying, hey, you were home and you didn't even tell us. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Tell them you came to work, man.
That's right. I'm looking over my shoulder, too. Pochettino's watching me, so I got to keep working.
Exactly.
Hey, thank you, man. Guys. Appreciate the time.
Thanks so much.
All right, Paul.
That is
Paul. We gotta reach out to Antonio, man.
Yeah, that's his son.
He was talking to me about that when we were in Green Bay.
That's crazy. So for those, Paul Tenorio, senior soccer writer for The Athletic, mentioned Alex Freeman a few times there on the U.S. men's national team. That is Antonio Freeman's son. Antonio Freeman had all that success with the Packers.